you want to talk about 13 ways of looking at a blackbird?
Well, I was hoping you were going to talk about it, and then I would,
okay,
say something.
Oh, that's so great. These ModPo people are fantastic. We're going to talk about the poem briefly, and then you can respond to it either by making a comment or asking a question. Does that sound like a good process?
It sounds like it's a fine process.
All right, Allie, we're going to go to you, and then on Maurice. Just say anything you want about the Blackbird poem, and then we'll come back into the room here. And why don't you give the mic to Andrea? We'll put Andrea on the spot, and she can say something about it too. Allie, your thought on the Blackbird poem?
Well, I love this poem. This is one of my favorite poems in the course. And I think probably the most obvious thing to say about it is to look at its kind of prismatic quality. Because, it's, of course, the central object, the blackbird, is the easiest thing to say that it's about. But each different facet really does invoke something else, where the resonant image, to get back to another Williams poem, depends upon, to a certain extent, the blackbird, but isn't entirely the blackbird.
That's a great reading of depends upon. So much depends upon the blackbird that we can generate not 13, but infinite prismatic instances. Well said, Allie, given how early in the morning it is in particular. Maurice, what do you think?
Yeah. I really like the word that Allie used, prismatic. I think the poem really talks about perspective and perception, and prismatic seems to have sort of a rigid, frozen quality to it, but what I really liked is the movement that goes through this poem, particularly in the stanza that says, "When the blackbird flew out of sight, it marked the edge of one of many circles." And then further down, the river is moving, the blackbird must be flying. That idea that no perspective is fixed, and it's constantly shifting, and it's a matter of how you view and interpret the foreground and background is a product of not only the eye of the blackbird, but of course the eye of the poem, the subject.
Oh, well said, Maurice. Thank you. Andrea, your thought on this poem?
I loved this poem. This was new this year.
This year, yeah, one of the new poems.
Yeah, it was great to see something new and to get a chance to kind of unpack it. My favorite part is actually in the 5th stanza. I do not know which to prefer, the beauty of inflections or the beauty of innuendos. The blackbird whistling or just after.
Just after. Just after what?
Well, and that's what I kind of took from that was bouncing back to all of these other things, was the beauty of inflections or the beauty of innuendos in all of the things that we've been reading. And it's, you don't know what to prefer, and you're looking at all of these different aspects of things, and the imagists are really kind of whittling down to the essence of what is. And so I just like that there's this sort of conflict between the not conflict, there can be a confluence between the inflections and the innuendos and the blackbird whistling or just after. I just think that's...
Andrea, hold the mic. Stay on there. Julie, are you still with us?
I'm still with you.
Okay. Steve, bring her up a little on the volume. Julie, do you want to ask a question or make a comment based on what you heard from Allie, Maurice, and Andrea?
Well, they all had wonderful things to say. I really like the word, as everyone else did, the prismatic word that Allie used. I think it was Allie. Whoever used it, it was a great word.
It was Allie. Yeah. She's smart.
And just now someone spoke about number 5 with the blackbird whistling, and it really is one to love. And my personal backyard blackbird whistles starting smack on the hour of 5 a.m. when he's doing his whistling.
So you don't have a rooster, you have a blackbird.
We have a blackbird, and it
What's the noise?
sings to
What's
us
the noise
in
a
those
blackbird makes?
spring months when they do, and he starts smack on 5 a.m. every morning.
That's weird. What does it sound like? What's the blackbird sound like?
It sounds like High Noon. The music from High Noon.
Oh, really? Wow! So, I didn't expect that answer. Is the sound of the blackbird?
For those of you who don't know it, it's Na 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 na.
Nice.
Yes, yes.
If
and,
we had more
well, then
time,
he goes
we'd
on.
have you
He's
sing
much
a
better.
song
We
for us.
also have a nightingale that appears occasionally, but the Blackbird is a far better singer.
Let's
Doesn't
talk
get
about the
credit.
end of that section, okay? I
Yes?
don't know which to prefer. We're going to skip the two next lines and assume that the ambiguity of preference continues to the end. I don't know which to prefer. Do I prefer the Blackbird whistling, or do I prefer just after the whistle? Can you translate that? Can you paraphrase that?
Well,
What's the difference between the whistling
I mean, there's many things one could say. It seems to me that sort of like reading a poem. First, you're actively doing it,
Yes.
and then after, there's
So
the
what is
time where it percolates and you begin to understand.
That's
what
such a
you
high-level answer. I mean, really great high-level answers. That's like a graduate seminar answer. Can we do the sophomore class answer? That is to say,
Well,
whistling and
first
just after.
noise, and then there's silence.
Right. Sound and silence. I don't know which
Yep.
to prefer. Do I prefer the sound of something, or do I prefer the silence that comes just after? Dave Poplar, what's the difference between silence that's not preceded by sound? I know that's theoretically impossible, but what's the difference between just plain silence and the silence that occurs after a sound? What's the difference?
The impact of an event lingers, and that lingering is what happens when the silence is right after the event that preceded it.
Which do you prefer, the sip of the coffee or the taste of it just after?
Well, right now I appreciate the effect of the coffee, but I guess the lingering part is really what you savor out of the experience. It's not just imbibing it; it's the whole experience that comes after it.
Let's think of some. Can someone give Steve McLaughlin the mic, because he's thought a lot about sound? In a minute, Steve, I'm going to ask you to say something about sound and the quality of the silence right after a sound, as distinct from just plain silence. But while he's thinking of something to say, let's think of some other words for that silence just after a sound. Any synonyms? I'll throw one out. Resonance. Anything else?
Trace.
Trace. Anything else?
Echo.
Echo.
Aura.
Yeah. Anna, anything else? How do you describe the silence right after the sound? You know that a room fills with sound. If I say Anna and stop, what happens after I stop? She's silent. Anna happens after that. Let's give Steve the mic. Steve, what are your thoughts? Say something brilliant about sound.
Well, I mean, this is paraphrasing others, but I mean, I've never heard any sound but the sound of the mind, right? So the moment right after a sound ends is in some ways more real than the experience of the sound itself, because
it's more real. Wow.
The brain turns on and starts, processing.
So the ears take it in, and then the brain is processing the sound partly on a delay, a slight delay, but partly
the 30 millisecond delay, something like that.
Yeah. So this is actually a physiological thing. Steve, Andrea still has the mic. Oh, that's the same mic. Steve, Andrea, and/or Julie, let's say one more thing about this. What does this stuff about silence? I don't know if I prefer the sound or the effect of the sound. The after effect, is Steven saying. What does that have to do with this whole project of prismatic, seemingly infinite, or at least 13 cubist attempts? What is it, any of the three of you, what does it have to do with his overall project that he doesn't know which to prefer? Andrea, give it a try. This is hard. I'm putting you on the spot.
Well, I was thinking, as Steve was talking, I was thinking that the just after is memory, really, and that is when you own it. That's when that's when you possess whatever it is that you've just heard or read, and you're free to go in any direction that you want. And so that's another piece of the prism. It's not just the thing; it's the memory of it that changes.
I think we want to. Andrea, that was brilliant.